old saying in geopolitics, you can be an empire or you can be a debtor, but you cannot be both. For 80 years, the United States defied this rule. They printed the money and the world accepted it. They sang. All right, real quick, Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutation to all the brothers and a few sisters out there. Unto his like foreigners, from the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Shalom in the Hebrew, which means peace. This one is going to be a doozy. In other words, hey, the Wadi Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai for the downfall of Babylon the Great. And I'm going to let this man speak. And matter of fact, yeah, let me let this guy do his thing. Their enemies, and the world obeyed. They were the masters of the universe. But this week, the master had to go begging. In Caracas, the United States is doing the unthinkable. After years of trying to destroy Nicolas Maduro, after seizing his planes, freezing his accounts, and putting a $15 million bounty on his head. Also publicly threatening him. Also threatening to send military in there, bombing fishing boats, talking about it was drug related. They're clearing out the airspaces, telling people to get out of Venezuela as much as possible. All these things is taking place in real life. Trump just completely going against everything, not even asking Congress for anything. And this is what this man is saying. Washington is suddenly desperate to make a deal. Why? Because the petrodollar is dying, and they need Venezuela's oil to save it. And in Washington, the new Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is facing a nightmare. He needs to borrow $3 trillion this year just to keep the lights on, but his usual customers aren't buying. So he is forced to look across the ocean to the very country the U.S. calls its greatest enemy, China. Do you see the irony? And you know what's the irony of all? This is why, through the Spirit, we always say, let me get this real quick. Before I get there, Luke 11 and 18. If Satan also be divided against himself, how shall his kingdom stand? So the Lord asked that question because anything that's divided against itself is going to rip itself apart. And the ones that's ripping themselves apart is the Edomites. This is why prime movie Blade. There was a scene in Blade where it was Frost and he was dealing with the old timers, the old vampires. They had their way of doing things, and Frost is like, nah, humans are cattle, they're food resources. We're not supposed to make no deals with them, and so they was pushing that idea. They were infighting amongst those that are on top. Slide. So here he is. You have the masterful plan that we all know that they want. What they want from the world. What they want is to put a chip in everybody. And the reason why they want to put the chip in everybody is they want full control. But you still have some people that may be bucking up against this thing, saying it's too quick. We gotta make some more time, because they can't just crash the economy just as that. Real quick, I don't know why. Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. And the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the keepers of the house are the economists. Now, Trump made a statement. Hold on for a second. Let me get that real quick.
Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. But the word affordability is a Democratic scam. One of my top priorities will be to quickly defeat inflation and make America affordable again. I don't want to hear about the affordability. We will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again. There's this fake narrative that the Democrats talk about, affordability. Affordability is a con job. We will target everything from car affordability to housing affordability. You know, this whole thing is, they use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax. Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make. So you hear the promises and you hear the deflection. Now, why I bring this up with this particular video, this man, despite the things that he say, his ego can't allow him to be hated. He needs to have something afloat before it's all said and done, when it's all crashed. He needs to be loved more than hated. His ego is real soft. All right? And we clearly see that. So this is why they're trying to maintain this false narrative, because remember, his campaign is make America great again, right? How can you make something great again when it was never great from the beginning? And as people are going through the things what they're going through and blaming him for it. This is why when when they asked, they did I don't know if it's a quarterly or monthly annual, not an annual, but the job reports. He fired the guy that gave the job reports. He needs to keep the people docile and loving him. All right. So the keepers of the house is the economists. They try to maintain the lies that has been bought. But once again, everyone knows that this place, this shindig, is over. Everybody could feel it. It's not the same again. It's getting much, much worse than it ever was before. So why would the keepers of the economists tremble? Because the reaction of the people. All right, this shit is not staying afloat. It's not staying afloat at all. It says, and the strong man shall bow themselves and the grinding cease, which is the job. The job market it's pretty much, there ain't no jobs. There's a lot of infighting. So when he's talking about how there's a lot of jobs, there ain't no jobs. All the tech jobs, they already give it to AI. Matter of fact, let me see if I can get this. I think a brother has sent it, Slakia. You could clearly see something going on. Nah, it's not here. It was, of all the job losses thus far, it's over 1 million people that have no jobs. It says, because they are few and those that look at the windows be darkened. And that's the future. So let me go back to this video.
The United States is currently waging an economic war against the two countries that it needs the most. I worked at the IMF for many years. I have seen this pattern before. When a superpower starts begging its enemies for resources, it is not a 4D chess move. It is a liquidation sale. Today we are going to look at the two disparate deals.
And there was another video telling there is a liquidation itself. A lot of these they elites, but they're not elites. They try to make their money. They try to make everything. This is why they eliminated a lot of cryptocurrency holders. All right, long ago. There's a big money grab that's going on that we are not aware of. There's some people that's making a lot of money, but everybody else is making nothing. So those that are on top, Trump and his friends, they try to make as much as they can. Okay? It's crazy. It's like before they introduce the world to their system, they try to rob everybody. Before you know what I'm saying? Because they're trying to get on a level. There's a big financial greed that's going on right now.
behind closed doors. The oil deal in Venezuela and the debt deal with China. Because if either of these deals fails, the American economy does not just recession, it stops. Let us start with the humiliation in Caracas. If you want to understand how weak the American empire has become, you do not need to look at the GDP numbers. You just need to look at who they are shaking hands with. 5 years ago, the United States declared that Nicolas Maduro was not the president of Venezuela. They recognized a man named Juan Guaido.
Yeah, that was actually the Obama clone, a Spanish version clone that they had. He had the same big ears, little bit lighter than Obama. He looks the same as Obama. Like they built this man in a factory because they wanted to plot a coup against the president of Venezuela. They wanted to put a puppet in office so that they could have free access to the oil. But the people did not respond to the American puppet. So this is why, and this is during Trump's administration, it was considered to be a failure. All right. He couldn't usurp that government. Remember, everything is strategic. Everything that they do is strategic. So all this stuff that they've been doing with the whole pipeline in Europe, Europe not getting no sort of gas because the United States decided, oh, we're going to cut them off from Russian oil. Then you have to supply to your allies. So they probably had it in their mind since that time. Don't worry, we're gonna take over Venezuela, which is gonna provide for Europe. But what's happened is there's a lot of resistance. And scripture says that he should be in straits before he think that he's gonna implement this new world order. He's gonna be met with a lot of resistance, and this is what we're seeing. Things are not going according to plan, which is a beautiful thing. All right, they're not gonna be able to fully commit to the things that they need to because there's always a hiccup behind it.
Froze Venezuela's bank accounts. They seized their airplanes.
Yeah, because was it Chavez? Was it Chavez? I believe it was Chavez, but I could be wrong. That had asked for the oil. Then I say their money, their gold back to the Bank of England, and they say nope. Yeah, it was Maduro, and it said nope. We do not recognize Maduro as a president. So they couldn't even get their gold back from a bank that they supposedly supposed to be friendly, so to speak. They could get their money out whenever they can, but they're not getting nothing. They're not getting nothing out of this. Okay, so history has a way of exposing shit. Something about Venezuela. Well, obviously Israelites. I don't think they're gonna be able to control or do anything to that place because everything that they're doing now is screwing them up.
Put a $15 million bounty on Maduro's head like he was a cowboy outlaw in a Western movie. The goal was simple: collapse the Venezuelan economy, force a regime change, and take control of the world's largest oil reserves. So, what happened? Maduro is still there, but the American oil strategy is dead. You see, the United States made a catastrophic miscalculation. They assumed that if they sanctioned Venezuelan oil, the world would stop buying it. But the world is hungry. China continued to buy. India continued to buy. And here's the detail that keeps the U.S. Treasury awake at night. They did not pay in dollars. Venezuela became the first laboratory for a post-dollar oil market. They started selling their oil for Chinese yuan and increasingly for USDT crypto. By sanctioning them, the U.S. forced Venezuela to build a financial immune system. They proved to the world that you can sell oil without Washington's permission. And now the tables have turned. While the U.S. has plenty of oil in Texas, it is the wrong kind of oil. It is light sweet crude. But the massive American refineries in the Gulf Coast, they were built 50 years ago to process heavy sour crude. Without that heavy oil, the refineries choke. They cannot produce enough diesel. And if diesel runs out, the American supply chain stops. So we see
how everything's connected? Hearing this, I was like, damn, that kind of makes sense. Because if America has oil, like, why would you go to these other lands and take their oil? Because there's different type of oils and the way they built it. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Gettys that made an agreement with Saudi Arabia. Is it the Gettys? They made a freaking movie about that shit too. One of the elite's family just strictly deals with Saudi Arabia. And once again, it's like America has his oil. Why they can't take care of the product over here? Why so reliant to that oil? And diesel is highly needed, especially the way trucks are built. A lot of things are built on diesel. So if you need that, and it seems like Venezuela has all sort of oils that they need, which is part of the prophecy that it was said about I believe it's Asher. Let me see. Let's get that real quick. Deuteronomy 33, right? 33:14, I believe. No. I believe it's in this chapter. I could be wrong. Yep, 24. Deuteronomy 33:24. And of Asher, he said, let Asher be blessed with children. Let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his feet in oil. And that's dealing with the land, Venezuela, right? It's one of the main places that have nothing but good crude oil. So here it is. It's not talking about olive oil, by the way. Here it is. They're what you call it? They're saturated with that over there. And as always, Esau wants to take the lands of Israel. So Israel, the Lord always bless Israel. It has become a supply for the world. And he talking about this guy, Trump, is trying his damnedest to get to that land. Also, he also made a deal with Congo and Rwanda, I believe. The Dominican, it's a Dominican, but the Republic of Congo and Rwanda. He just made a deal with them. Why is so much self-interest in these lands? Because they have natural resources. They have to find a way to give their allies something. Because remember, their allies was already dealing with a good supply, which was close. They have to supply them with the things that is needed. All right. So let me go back to this.
The unthinkable. American diplomats are quietly going back to Caracas. They are issuing waivers to companies like Chevron to pump oil in Venezuela again. They are offering debt relief. They are essentially begging the man they tried to overthrow to please turn the pumps back on. This is not diplomacy. This is surrender. It proves that when push comes to shove, the United States needs the Global South's resources more than the Global South needs the United States' permission. But if the situation in Venezuela is embarrassing, the situation in Washington is absolutely terrifying. thinks the Treasury Secretary's job is to manage the economy. It is not. His job is to be a salesman. Every single year, the U.S. government spends trillions more than it taxes. To fill that giant hole, they have to sell paper, U.S. Treasury bonds. For decades, this was the easiest job in the world. The entire planet lined up to buy American debt because it was considered risk-free. But this year, the math has broken. The United States needs to sell $3 trillion in new debt just to survive the next 12 months. And the question Mr. Besant has to answer is, who is going to buy it? He looks at Japan, traditionally the biggest buyer. But Japan is in a currency crisis. They are not buying American debt. They are selling it to save their own yen. He looks at
because it's showing that this global this is a demolition. However, some parties are not don't know what's really going on. So there's like a panic, but it's not a panic because they already have a system that they want to put in. They already have a system that they want to install. So you could see right then and there with this information and what we know is a conflict of interest. All right. All the governments of the world are having currency issues when it comes to their fiat currency because they're trying to install the new system. And there's a lot of people that wants to make their final money grab, but they can't do it. So everything is playing out. Because we can't give this man no fucking credit for anything because he himself he's just worthless. All right. The Lord is allowing Esau to have his way of doing things, but it's going to fail. All right.
Europe. They are stagnant, fighting their own recession. He looks at the American banks. They are already stuffed full of government paper, sitting on unrealized losses. There is only one buyer left on the planet with deep enough pockets to bail out the United States, China. And this is the absolute comedy of the American position. On one hand, you have the politicians screaming about a trade war. You have threats of 60% tariffs. You have generals talking about conflict in the Pacific, but quietly behind closed doors.
So there you go. This is a beautiful thing, man. Let me get this last one. Jeremiah 50 and start at 7. Well, I start at 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. That's why the scripture says this is not our rest. All right. Micah 2 and 10. Because you clearly see the collapse is right around the corner. Zephaniah 1 and 11 is happening. And it will happen. All right. It says, be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her her recompense. And which is beautiful because we're in a time where you have to let go of this world. It's going to be hard for us, but it's going to be easy. They said you shall own nothing and be happy. Well, with the bonds that they're trying to continue to keep us in, they can have this shit. But this is all the Lord's doing to cut us off from Babylon. All right. It says, Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken, which is what? The philosophies of this world. All right. And what made the alliances, the financials, you heard what he said, the easiest way of nations making money was what? By the bonds. Okay? Because that's low risk. Well, guess what? They're not risking it no more. It says, I mean, the whole earth drunken, the nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Because now, look, who's the biggest debt holder? He said China. And if China decides tomorrow, you know what? You're going to have to pay us back for all that debt we've been holding. This place is fucked. All right, but it's like they have to have some sort of control, demolition. They have to make sure it's right. This is why they're rushing to install this beast system. Okay, it's like there's one group that want to continue the things the way it is, and another group that's want to quickly come in. Like, we got to install this thing. And it says Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. So there's no healing for this place. There's no healing for the economy. Is nothing. This is the end. All right. This is the end for this place. There's nothing they can do. It says we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone to his own country. And it's kind of funny too, because they deporting people, but the handwriting is written in the wall. This place is done. Okay, the only ones that's holding it up is China. And China, hey, the scripture says what? Moab is my washpot. For her judgment have reached unto heaven. So we could clearly see, and is lifted up to this, even to the skies. We could clearly see the downfall of America right before our eyes. And it's a beautiful thing. So with that being said, shalom to the elect of the nation. So shalom.